In the heart of a wealthy city stood a mansion so large that people often slowed their cars just to stare at it. Tall iron gates, marble fountains, luxury cars parked neatly in a wide courtyard. It looked like the home of a king. And in many ways, it was. Because the man who owned that mansion was one of the richest businessmen in the country. His name was Chief Daniel Whitmore. For more than 40 years, he had built an empire from nothing. Hotels, real estate, factories, investment companies. People admired him. Employees respected him. Business partners feared his intelligence. But inside that massive mansion, something was wrong. Very wrong. One quiet evening, Chief Whitmore sat alone in his study. The room was silent except for the ticking of a large clock on the wall. In front of him was a framed family photograph. His wife, his 3 sons, and his youngest daughter. Everyone was smiling. They looked like the perfect family. But as Whitmore stared at the photo, a strange feeling crept into his heart. Something didn't feel right. Slowly, he leaned back in his chair and whispered to himself, "Do they really love me? Or do they only love my money?" The thought disturbed him deeply. For years, he had given his family everything. Luxury houses, expensive cars, the best education money could buy, private vacations around the world. But now that he was getting older, a frightening question entered his mind. What would happen if he suddenly became weak? If he could no longer provide money? If he became sick and helpless? Who would truly stand by him? And who would disappear? That night, the question refused to leave his mind. So Chief Whitmore decided to do something unusual. Something risky. Something that would reveal the truth. He picked up his phone and made 2 calls. One to his personal doctor, and another to his longtime lawyer. Within an hour, both men arrived at the mansion. They sat in Whitmore's private study, confused about why they had been called so late at night. Whitmore closed the door carefully, then turned toward them with a serious expression. "I need your help," he said quietly. The lawyer nodded. "Of course, Chief. What is it?" Whitmore paused for a moment. Then he said something that shocked them both. "I want to pretend that I am dying." The room fell silent. The doctor blinked in disbelief. "I'm sorry, what?" Whitmore walked slowly toward the window. Outside, the city lights glittered in the distance. "I want to know the truth about my family before my real death comes." The lawyer leaned forward. "You want to test them?" Whitmore nodded slowly. "Yes. If they believe I am dying, their true nature will appear." The doctor crossed his arms. "This is dangerous." Whitmore smiled faintly. "Living with people who only love your wealth is even more dangerous." The lawyer thought carefully. "If we are going to do this, we must first protect your assets." Whitmore turned toward him. "Explain." "I will secretly move half of your wealth into protected accounts that only you and I control." Whitmore nodded. "And the rest?" "We leave it where it is," the lawyer replied. "That way we can see what your family tries to do with it." Then the doctor spoke again. "And my role?" Whitmore looked directly at him. "You will tell them I have terminal cancer." The doctor hesitated. "And you want me to say you have, how long?" Whitmore answered calmly. 6 months. A long silence filled the room. Finally, the doctor sighed. "Well, if we're going to do this, then tomorrow your performance begins." The next morning, the mansion was filled with panic. Chief Whitmore lay in his bed coughing heavily. His breathing sounded weak. His face looked pale and tired. The servants rushed around nervously. Soon his wife, Margaret, hurried into the room. "What's wrong with you?" she asked. Before Whitmore could respond, his children arrived. Victor, the eldest son, a man who loved power and attention. Then Daniel, Jr., the second son, smart but impatient. Lucas, the youngest son, carefree and irresponsible. And finally Emma, Whitmore's youngest child, his only daughter. Emma rushed straight to the bed and held her father's hand. "Daddy, are you okay?" Whitmore coughed weakly. Just then, the doctor entered the room. Everyone waited nervously as he examined Whitmore. After several minutes, the doctor removed his glasses and sighed deeply. "I'm afraid the news is not good." Margaret covered her mouth. "What do you mean?" The doctor spoke slowly. "It's cancer." The room exploded with shock. "No." Margaret cried. Victor stepped forward. "How bad is it?" The doctor hesitated before answering. "It's advanced." The family stared at him in horror. Daniel Jr. asked the question nobody wanted to ask. "How long does he have?" The doctor looked down sadly. "Perhaps 6 months." Emma burst into tears. She hugged her father tightly. "Daddy, please don't leave us." Whitmore closed his eyes, pretending to be weak. But inside, he was watching everything. Every reaction, every word, every expression. And what he saw during the first week gave him hope. The family seemed loving and supportive. Margaret visited him every morning. Victor brought fruits and medicines. Daniel Jr. discussed business matters carefully. Lucas even offered to cancel his trips to stay home. Emma spent the most time with him, feeding him, helping him drink water, talking to him gently. For a moment, Whitmore began to think he had worried for nothing. But human nature has a way of revealing itself. And by the second week, everything began to change. Margaret stopped visiting the room. When Emma asked why, she said quietly, "It hurts me too much to see him suffering." But strangely, she had no problem attending parties with her wealthy friends. Victor soon entered Whitmore's room carrying documents. "Father," he said, "the company needs leadership right now." Whitmore looked weak. Victor continued, "You should rest. I'll manage the company operations for now." Whitmore nodded slowly. Inside his mind, he whispered to himself, "Let's see what you do." Victor quickly took control of the company. But instead of strengthening it, he began to destroy it. He fired many of the loyal employees who had worked with Whitmore for decades. He replaced them with his friends. He spent company money on expensive events, luxury parties, and flashy business deals. Meanwhile, Daniel Jr. had his own plan. Without telling anyone, he secretly contacted a property agent. Within weeks, he sold one of his father's biggest hotels. Lucas wasn't any better. He withdrew huge sums of money from company accounts to fund his extravagant lifestyle. Whitmore watched everything from his sickbed. His heart grew heavier each day. But one person remained unchanged. Emma. Every morning she cleaned his room. She helped him eat. She stayed beside him when he coughed at night. Sometimes she slept on the floor beside his bed. One evening, as Whitmore pretended to sleep, he heard Emma whisper softly, "Daddy, please don't leave me." Tears filled his eyes. But he stayed silent. Weeks passed, and the mansion slowly turned into a battlefield. The brothers began fighting over money and properties. Arguments became louder. Anger replaced love. Emma tried to stop them. "Why are you fighting when Dad is still alive?" she cried. But nobody listened. Eventually Emma made a difficult decision. She could not watch her father suffer in that toxic house anymore. One night, she packed his clothes quietly, called the family driver, and took him far away, back to their ancestral village. There, something unexpected happened. Villagers welcomed Chief Whitmore warmly. Old friends visited him. Farmers brought fruits and food. People spoke about how he had helped them years ago. Emma realized something important. Her father was loved deeply, just not by the people living in his mansion. One peaceful night under the stars, Whitmore turned to Emma. "There's something I must tell you." Emma looked at him. "What is it, Daddy?" Whitmore took a deep breath. "I'm not sick." Emma froze. "What?" "There was never cancer. It was all a test." She stared at him in shock. "You mean, you were pretending?" Whitmore nodded slowly. "I needed to know who truly loved me." Then he held her hand. "And you were the only one who stayed." Emma burst into tears. Days later, they returned to the city. When Whitmore walked into the mansion healthy and strong, the family was stunned. Victor dropped his drink. Lucas stared in disbelief. Margaret nearly fainted. The next morning everyone gathered in the living room. The lawyer arrived with documents. Whitmore stood in the center of the room. "I was never dying," he said calmly. Silence filled the room. It was a test. Then he revealed everything. The property sales. The company mismanagement. The hidden recordings. And the betrayals. His sons fell to their knees begging for forgiveness. But Whitmore remained firm. "You destroyed what I built." Then he turned toward Emma. "You are the only one who showed me true love." He took her hand. "From today, you will lead the company." 1 year later, Emma had rebuilt the business stronger than ever. The loyal employees returned. The company profits doubled. And Chief Whitmore finally found peace. Because he learned a painful truth. Money can attract many people. But true love only appears when everything seems lost. And Emma proved that loyalty is worth more than any fortune.
Please like, share, comment, follow, or subscribe.